President Trump weighing the option of declaring a national emergency at the border wall to build that wall.
We're looking at a national emergency because we have a national emergency. Just read the papers. We have a crisis at the border of drugs, of human beings being trafficked all over the world. They're coming through. And we have an absolute crisis, and of criminals and gang members coming through. It is national security. It's a national emergency.
So will the president do it? Can he legally do this?
Let's ask Judge Napolitano, Fox News senior judicial analyst. He's host of Liberty File on Fox Nation Monday through Thursdays. Starts at 9 a.m., right?
9:30. And you, of course, have a major role in Fox Nation as well.
Right. And Brad Meltzer a little bit later. But on this in particular, state of emergency, we don't know what the president's going to say, but Sean Hannity last night was saying he's urging him to declare a state of emergency. Should he?
Well, he can declare a state of emergency, but the declaration itself does not give him the power to take private property, and according to Congressman Will Hurd, Republican of Texas, through whose district most of the wall would go, most of the property the federal government doesn't own, so they have to condemn it and pay for it. He can't do that without congressional authorization. He can't spend money without congressional authorization. The emergency declaration, and he has to make the case for it tonight, otherwise the courts will second-guess him. The emergency declaration allows him to mobilize assets, but it doesn't allow him to take or occupy property, and it doesn't allow him to spend money that Congress hasn't authorized. Think about it. If the president, frustrated by Congress, could declare a national emergency and go around Congress, we would have seen this before. Barack Obama would have declared a national emergency in health care and started spending money on insurance policies to keep people healthy. And obviously he didn't because he couldn't.
It sounds as if what the White House is going to do is they're looking at, because they're going to say it's a national emergency, they're looking at some money that the Pentagon already has been approved and granted by Congress, and they're going to reprogram some of the money that has not been designated. And apparently, according to the Washington Post, 10 U.S. Code 2808, the president could do that, and apparently they got $10 billion in there that he could use, and $13 billion that has rolled over through the years.
Well, it depends on what that money was originally marked for. Question, can he take money from column A and put it in column B when column A was authorized by Congress and column B wasn't? Answer, no. There has to be a connection between the two.
Judge, I was reading that apparently in the past, the Pentagon has done that.
Sometimes the Congress has looked the other way when presidents have done this. That doesn't make it lawful, but it makes it easier for the political forces to accept it. I don't think he's going to declare a national emergency tonight. I think he's going to, just listening to John Roberts and our colleagues at the White House, I think he's going to make the case for a national emergency because he has to sell this to the American public. But he can't change the law, and he can't avoid the Constitution. Otherwise, those judges will enjoin him the minute the ink is dry. We were talking about this during the break.
You keep saying that he has to make the case. Does he have the proof that he needs this wall, or he needs to declare an emergency? When you look at the stats, he talks about the number of women that are assaulted when they're coming up toward the United States border. He talks about the drugs that are coming over that are killing Americans. He can present the stats of how many people are arrested or how many crimes are committed by illegals here in the United States.
Let me tell you how the statute defines national emergency. A truly extraordinary event or series of events that is a threat to life, safety, or property that cannot be addressed by ordinary governmental means. So he would have to make the case that all the assets he now has, including the military, are not enough.
Judge, let's take emotion out of it. It's just if you need some quick action, this is not going to be quick. If he declares a state of emergency, even if you think he's 100% right, there's going to be a lawsuit, and it's going to go into court, and nothing's going to get done.
It would be faster if we had a great national debate on all of immigration. I was telling Steve during the break, I reread as best I can, because they're all over the place, the immigration laws. You can see that they bear the cultural tenor of the times in which they were written. They're a pastiche of compromises going back 120 years. Right. We need a great national debate to resolve all these immigration issues, not with a gun to our head, not while people in the federal government are not getting paid, but in an ordinary, rational way. The president can commence that if he wants tonight.
Because it really is a political question. The president's going to say there's a security issue at our southern border. Republicans will say yes, and Democrats will say no.
And the Republican through whose district this goes is saying, not in our backyard.
Right. He does.
Until the president calls him.
Yeah, Will Hurd does think there should be border security. He is against the wall.
Right.
But I'm not sure that the CIA guy would be against a barrier.
Yes.
Right, but the,
All right,
but the,
Judge.
He's referring to Will Hurd, the former CIA guy.
Right.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure,
Thank you,
guys.
Judge.
All the best.